people aren't thinking independently. They're not even perceiving independent thinking, where it's like, okay, you say something critical of Kamala Harris, that means you're MAGA. When really you might just not like that thing about her, but you might like other things about her, but you might not like things about Trump, but you might like some things about Trump. You can have this, a
nuanced view.
Issues are nuanced, but people are always nuanced. We're all unique individuals, but we act like we're not.
Right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Travis Makes Friends podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Kat Timpf. Kat, what's up? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Thanks for taking the time in your insanely busy schedule right now.
I got a lot going on right now.
Yeah, no kidding. Just a little bit.
Yeah, both outside and inside of my body. Between my new book is out, I'm on tour, and I'm making a baby. So
Yeah. Which I hear could be somewhat tiring.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
I got 2 of them, but I didn't have to make either one of them.
Yeah, so. You have 2?
Yeah.
Okay, it's my first one.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, my son's name's Cam.
So, oh, really? It's my husband's name.
I was like, oh, that'll be super easy for me to remember.
Yeah.
I'll lock that away. So before we jump into a couple other things, I want to make sure that we talk about this at the outset. I try to read pretty constantly, at least a couple books a month, and I don't read a ton of political stuff. But I picked up your book just to prep for the interview a little bit, and then I ended up reading the whole thing in like a day and a half. Genuinely, I'm not just saying this because you're on my show, which I appreciate, but genuinely was one of the best books that I've read in a long time, especially as it comes to dissecting difficult topics.
Thank you. Yeah.
Because it's a very nuanced approach. And for some reason, nuance isn't allowed in society anymore. And so I very, very much appreciated the nuance and the angle that you took from the book. So before we do anything else, if you're watching, listening, be sure to go pick up a copy of I Used to Like You Until, wherever books are sold, wherever you like to buy books. Even if it's on audio, she reads the audiobook. It's very, very well done. If you are being affected by the political landscape, which is literally impossible to not be, especially during an election year.
Exactly.
Please go pick up a copy of Kat's book. You will definitely be happy that you did. So, got that out of the way. We'll definitely come back to it. But the show's called Travis Makes Friends. And so basically the whole premise is that to see if we can become friends by the end of this interview.
Okay,
all right,
cool.
So I'm going to start off on a commonality that I know that we have.
Okay.
Which is we both think that Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore are like 2 of the best comedies that have ever been made.
My favorite movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
And from what I hear, kind of the only movies you've ever watched.
Yes. I just have commitment issues. Like when you sit down to watch a movie, you're there for hours. I don't, what I mean? I don't like to watch movies a lot.
Yeah.
I've watched them over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I had a VHS that I would sit in my room and watch and just rewind it and watch it again. And
you had to take it out and put it in the rewinder?
Yeah. Truly, I've met so many people, but I feel like if I ever met Adam Sandler, I wouldn't know how to act. I would be weird. I would actually be weird because I'd be like, oh my God.
I've literally watched you for hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
On end. What's your favorite scene in Billy Madison?
Oh, Billy Madison is tough. So I loved with the penguin. So then I was really
Just
into penguins for a while, the whole arc of the penguin. And in Happy Gilmore, my favorite scene was always when, he comes jackass, he's running into everything and all that. Yeah. The amount of times I just spit Sprite out of my nose watching that. It's so, even no matter how many times I see it.
Right.
And I love making people watch it who haven't seen it somehow for the first time.
Yeah. And then I end up quoting it alongside them and then have to get their attention to make sure they're watching this part.
Exactly. I'm
me
too.
An annoying guy. But it's you're going to miss the punchline if you don't.
Yeah.
Come on, glue in with me here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Strap in for a ride.
Yes. Yeah. It's just silliness. I love it. We don't have enough silliness.
And it's so reflected in his stand-up too. I just watched his new special came out recently and I was like, that's why I love Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Because it's just so goofy. It's just silly stuff.
Which you need some of that sometimes.
Absolutely.
I do.
You got to unplug.
I do.
You know what I mean? Recharge sometimes.
Yeah. I do political stuff for a living. I love silliness. I love reality TV, as shameful as it is to admit.
Yeah, that's what I hear. RuPaul.
Yeah, I love RuPaul. Yeah. I watched Love Island, which I'd never USA, which I'd never seen because I had COVID. I don't know how else. It's on 6 nights a week or something like that. So that was a big commitment. I don't know if I could do it again.
That is a big commitment.
But yeah, reality TV, silliness, stuff like that.
Of course. Yeah. What about favorite food?
Everything now that I'm pregnant, I've been eating a lot.
Any specific cravings?
I eat a lot of peanut butter.
A lot of peanut butter.
Like a lot of peanut butter. But I
just carry around a jar of peanut butter, or
I mean,
Reese's cups.
I used to not eat a lot of food. Like I didn't eat all day. Yeah. I would have nicotine gum all day, chewing nicotine gum. Drinking.
It's kind of an appetite suppressant.
Yeah, but I just, I love nicotine, but I'm going to go right back to it after I give birth. But I would eat like dinner at night and go to sleep. And now it's like, I'm just it sounds so weird to be like, I'm into eating now.
Like food's like a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm getting, really into eating. I'm having a difficult time actually controlling it. Like I'm eating so much that I'm making myself sick at night. Like I have trouble sleeping because I eat.
Your stomach's like
yes, because I'm eating so much. My stomach's overactive and there's a baby in there. I mean, my body, I've been addicted to nicotine for so many years. And now that I'm not on it, I'm like, oh, this is what people mean with food. I know it sounds so sick. I know it does.
Yeah. It's like before you just didn't have a problem because you just
not that I didn't eat, but I did. But I would not be like needing to eat every 3 to 5 hours, which now I do. And then I don't know how to stop.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the problem.
Yeah.
It is a real problem. Mm-hmm. But food's so good though. It's so hard to stop eating it sometimes.
Yeah, I like terrible food according to like my husband. Okay. I like Polish food.
Okay, so like what's that, sausages?
It's like it's like pierogi. It's like potatoes. It's starches. It is sausages. Okay. It's
very
red meat, carb heavy. Okay. Soup is my favorite food though. Still, I love soup. Food. Yeah. As you saw, my husband came in wearing my merch today, where I have a Soup Girl sweatshirt and pants that say "Hot soup goes in, hot takes come out," because I just love soup. When you're eating soup, you feel like it's warm, and I'm always cold all the time. It's just cold everywhere I go, whether it's outside, inside.
Well, also you live in New York.
Yeah, but in the summer, their buildings are always like, let's see how much AC we can, like, we have the most AC. It's weird. It's like, okay, I'm miserable.
That's so
but
true.
You're eating the warm soup, and you feel like for a moment in time, everything's going to be okay.
That's true. It is a comforting food.
I love soup. Yeah. So probably my favorite food is soup.
Okay. That's unexpected, but I can get on board though. There's some soups that I can get on board.
I order the soup before the meal, and I'm always like the whole meal I'm still thinking about the soup.
You should just get another bowl of soup.
Yeah, exactly.
So Olive Garden unlimited soup and salad.
Yeah, I love that. I'll fuck that up. Yeah.
Fuck the salad.
Just
give me the soup. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I mean, we agree on a few things so far.
Okay.
And when I read your book, the reason I continued reading your book and didn't put it down until I finished it was that I tend to actually agree with you on a lot of the stuff that you were saying in there. And so this was one of the first interviews where I told my mom, everyone's supposed to be like, oh, who are you interviewing this week, or whatever, and then I told her that I was interviewing a girl named Timpf, and she was like, oh my gosh, I love Kat.
Yeah.
And it was like the first time where she actually knew the person that I was going to interview better than I knew the person I was going to interview. Yeah. So like that was before I read your book and before I was listening to some of your stuff or whatever. I was just like kind of familiar, but she watches Gutfeld like clockwork, you know what I mean? Like all the time. And so when I sat down, I was like, I was one of those people that was like, okay, well, she's a Fox host, clearly conservative. Let's see what everything's about. And then start going through it. And I was like, oh, okay. Actually not like anything that I thought at all, which is the entire reason for the book's existence. Right. Like that was kind of the thing that like made you write the book to begin with. Exactly.
So I think that I'm in such a unique position to write this book because I'm not conservative.
Yeah.
I'm not a Democrat either. I'm just independent.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the issue is. But I do work at Fox News. So I will get it from both sides. I appreciate your mom. Sometimes people who don't like me so much on the show. I mean,
if they're really conservative.
Yes. Yeah. If they're really conservative, sometimes they don't like what I have to say. And then sometimes they'll say, okay, because I disagree with her on this, she's a bad person and she should be fired and whatever.
Yeah.
And I get so used to hearing that. But then there's people who are on the other side who hear that I work at Fox News and they're like, oh, that tells me everything I need to know about her. I don't want to talk to her.
Yeah.
There have been theaters who don't want to work with me just because I work there. And they've never heard me speak.
Wild.
They don't know anything about what I think about anything.
Right.
And I think that it's amplified for me because of what I do for work and where I work, really. But I think this is a problem that is going on society wide, where you'll take just one thing about a person, whether it's where they work or it's their view on one issue, and then that in your mind tells you everything you need to know about them.
The bucket.
Yeah. And it's gotten to the point where people aren't thinking independently. They're not even perceiving independent thinking, where it's like, okay, you say something critical of Kamala Harris, that means you're MAGA. When really you might just not like that thing about her, but you might like other things about her, but you might not like things about Trump, but you might like some things about Trump, or you can have this, a
nuanced view.
Issues are nuanced, but people are always nuanced. Yeah. We're all unique individuals, but we act like we're not.
Right. And you're condemned.
Yes.
Like a step further than like you're condemned if you don't fit into that.
Yes. And I get condemned by both sides routinely. I mean, every single day.
That's kind of how, now I'm not like a political commentator, so I don't get it as often, but like, that's kind of where I land on a lot of things. And I think what was interesting in hearing your upbringing is that it sounds like you were raised fairly conservative and very religious. I was raised fundamentalist Christian.
Okay.
And so I think, I don't know if you would agree with this or what your thoughts are on this, but I'd love to hear them, because I would be curious to hear why you think you've grown into the person that you are, rather than allowing the way that you were raised, the desirability bias perhaps in your mind, to continue to pursue this echo chamber of like conservative leadership. Like, why do you think that you were like, that's actually an interesting idea that I used to think I didn't agree with, but that actually makes more sense than what I used to think? Why do you think you were open to hearing a clash of ideas rather than continuing to engage in the, one way or, get out echo chamber?
Right. Yeah. See, my parents were both, my dad's pretty libertarian. My mom was, as I write about excruciatingly openly in the book, was very, very Catholic. And it was a huge sticking point in our relationship. But I was also very, very Catholic. I was in the 4th grade doing bread and water fasts for the souls in purgatory. That's not what most 4th graders are doing. And then I fell away from it probably sometime in college. And I think I went away to college. I think I was meeting people. I think I was challenging things in myself mentally, where for me, it came down to, okay, this is saying that if I'm having sex with my high school boyfriend, and that, according to what I'm being taught, means I'm going to go to hell forever if I die before going to confession. And I just the more I thought about it, I spent a lot of time feeling guilty about having sex with him. And I was like, why can't I, I was like, I'm going to go to hell. That really, really affected me. But then I thought about it and I'm like, do I think I deserve that?
Yeah.
And then it kind of just like went on from there, because it wasn't just me having sex with my high school boyfriend. It was other things. It was like, homosexuality is a sin. It was like, do I think a person, not just me, anybody doing these things, gets hit by a car, goes to hell forever? Does that seem fair to me? So, and then
does
also,
that seem like the behavior of a loving father?
That's right. And I would talk to my mom, and I write about this in the book, where I would say, you love me, right? You love me how I am, and you wouldn't send me to hell forever, and you don't want me to go to hell forever. And I understand that that's why we're having this conversation. And, I get where you're coming from, because you don't want me to go to hell. But also, if you wouldn't send me there, can't God find you not do that either? You don't think I deserve, that's a hell of a punishment.
Right.
No way out, no matter what.
You don't think you think that the omniscient, sovereign God of the universe is insecure enough to be worried about like what this person on earth is doing, enough to send them to eternal torment forever without any escape or like room for forgiveness or anything?
Yes. And so, but it was hard because I would lean on religion a lot. I still find myself reflexively praying when I feel like I'm really fucked. Like, I'll just start praying Hail Marys. Yeah. And even though I don't know who I'm praying to or what, but I honestly, it's interesting that you bring this up. I was, stuck in traffic on the way here, being dumb and reading social media comments, which I really normally don't do, on another podcast that I did a few weeks ago, where I said just something about religion. And everybody's like, I feel sad for your baby if you don't raise your baby with a religion, da 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 da. And I think what people fail to understand, which I write about, is I see the appeal of religion. Yeah. I want to have that. I want to have the belief that there's someone watching out for me.
Envious of the faith and the security that comes with it. The certainty.
I want to believe I'm going to see my dead mom again. I want to believe that I'm not just like, I'm going to die and then I'm going to go somewhere awesome. I get like your way is better.
Right.
Your way of believing this is better, but I can't get there. I feel like
you can't logic your way into the belief. I
can't. Yeah. People will say it as if God came up to me and I was like, I don't want anything to do with you. That's not what happened. I'm open to it. I'm totally agnostic. I just don't really know either way.
Yeah.
I'm desperate to have some kind of belief. I hope I can get there someday.
Yeah.
I'm not there right now. But people use it as a reason to attack me a lot, that I'm disgusting.
Which is a really compelling argument to join their religion.
I mean, I've had people 1-star review my book, like, you're nasty because you don't believe in God. Kind of, you know, as a conservative, your views on religion. I'm like, my views on religion is that I would love to be, but I'm not, and I can't get there.
Right.
And I think it's really sad because nobody's being won over
from your aggression.
But right. And it's also like, you think that I don't have morals or values because I'm not religious, but I do have morals and values. That's what it is.
And arguably, a lot of the people that I met outside of religion have better morals and values than people that I was raised with in religion. Not to say as a blanket statement, there are plenty of good people on both sides. But that's the thing, is that there are good people outside of it, just like there are good people inside of it. And when I was inside of it, I thought that no good people existed outside of it.
Right.
That makes sense.
It does. Well, actually, research shows that goes both ways, that most atheists think that atheists are better people. Yeah. Most Christians think Christians are better people, but they both believe wrong things about each other. Mm-hmm. And I do have friends who are very devout Christians, but who aren't, I mean, they're not judgmental of me at all. Mm. They know every story in the book. They know the stories that were too crazy to include in the book, if you can imagine that. Because I talk about a lot of shit in the book. But, you know, so it's not always accurate, but it's just getting attacked over that one thing. It's like, I mean, I just put my phone down. I'm like, okay, cool. People like writing essays in my comments about how they feel sad for my child. Yeah. I'm like, and off of one sentence, I said something about not raising my kids with religion, which I don't know if I will or I won't. Yeah. I don't know if my husband might take them to church. I'm still figuring that out. I don't know how to hold a baby yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? I might not, but maybe he will, and we'll talk about that. Right. But to hear a 1-second statement that I made and be like, now I need to leave this essay about how I feel sad for your child. Right. And you don't stop and think, maybe I should Google her, see what else she's had to say about this topic. Maybe I should listen to the whole interview. Right. Maybe I should read the book. But that's just like a microcosm of what's going on right now, because it happens all the time on both sides.
The whole broad purpose for the book to begin with is talking to that exact person. To be like, hey, there's nuance to this. There's also context. You're taking a 30-second clip in the context of an hour-long conversation.
It was actually like a 10-second clip.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so ridiculous. As part of a conversation where we were like joking around.
Yeah. And again, you're not really convincing me to come over to your side on this. Like, you're not. Right. This isn't a very compelling argument to raise my child in church. You're the one that's going to be there.
Yeah. You're a jerk.
Actually, I don't want to spend my time over with you, and I don't want my child to learn from you. You know?
Right. And it's just not. It's never. Hey, well, why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
People never want to know more, and I think. It's hard, it can be hard to give up, and I write about this a lot. It can be hard to give up the idea that the other side is bad, because then you don't get to believe you're good just because you're not on that side. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that can be hard.
You actually have to do stuff.
You actually have to do stuff.
Right.
Yes.
Instead of just holding on to a belief.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's objectively more difficult to do. So it's just easier.
Yes, it is easier.
To rest in, like you said in the book, to rest in your hatred, you know?
Yes. And it's easier. It would be easier for me to pick a side. I also love when people say to me that I'm, a fence rider and
totally. Yeah, you're taking the easy way out by doing what? Yeah, I get. Yeah.
What's easy about this?
Right. Well, I graduated from Bible college with a degree in Bible to go to ministry.
Really?
Like on the same campus that I went to church on from the time that I was 3. So I graduated kindergarten.
You can get a degree in Bible?
High school, college, one campus.
Okay.
And I went to church there, and they have a Bible college there.
Oh,
and
wow.
I got my degree in Bible. It's unaccredited, but it's a degree.
I figured. I figured.
So,
I gathered that.
Yeah. So when I left and didn't do that thing, that's what it's met with. Is like, well, you're taking the easy way out. And it's like, you think that abandoning all of my principles, beliefs, network, people that I knew and loved and who loved me, like every person I've ever known, you think leaving that world was easier for me? No. It was actually extremely difficult. And I wish that I could have just kept the belief and just held it. And
was there a moment where you're like, I can't do this anymore?
There was, several moments. Yeah, it was unfolding in a couple of years. Once I was done with college, that just led me away from it, kind of step by step, Yeah. And then it just led me to consider outside opinions, which would never happened before, and to adopt new perspectives and stuff like that. And it was like, oh, these people aren't actually bad people. Oh, I would actually rather spend time with these people than some of the hypocrites that I knew in this circle. Again, not to paint the whole world that way. Most of my friends are still Christian, and a lot of them still are in that world. And I went to Bible college with a bunch of people who were going to Bible college. So I have friends that are in ministry who are pastors. And they're great people, and they love me, and I love them, and we're friends, and all that stuff. But to think that just because you are in this bucket that makes you a good person, and if you're outside of that bucket that makes you a bad person, is just objectively ridiculous statement. Even though that's what I grew up believing. That like if you take a sip of alcohol, if you are homosexual, or if you cuss, if you smoke, if you do any of these things, like in my mind, you are a bad person, and my job is to convert you into being a good person. You know what I mean? Not like no nuance, no question asking, no value creation, no principles. Just like, are you doing the checklist or are you not doing the checklist? And if you're not doing it, bad. And if you're doing it, good.
I know. And it is, the fact that's crazy. But I guess I can get it, because people say like it's taking the easy way. It's like, you think for me, it's less easy I've been on Fox News for almost 10 years now. You think it's easier for me to not be like, I'm MAGA?
Totally. Yeah. Like you would get more points that way.
I would get more points. I would sell more books.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I do very well. I mean, and people at the Fox audience, they do come out to my shows, and I do sell out shows, but I'd be selling out more shows, and I'd be selling them out faster. My venues would be bigger.
Absolutely.
Because I'm getting on this platform every day, knowing that the people watching have a certain point of view by and large.
Right.
And then I am at times, depending on what the topic is, disagreeing with what that's going to be.
Knowingly.
Yeah. And then my favorite, and I read about this, I'm accused of being a secret liberal because they can't just, fathom that I'm liberal on some things and other things I'm not liberal on.
Which
I would be trying to hard and hide it.
It blows my mind because like, it's crazy to me that that's not just the normal thing. Like that's how you should be.
Right.
You should be liberal on some things, conservative on some things. Like, because if you actually go through and look at your principles, your values, and then the issue itself, you should be coming up with different conclusions than other people. The problem is most people don't want to think about it at all. They just want to adopt a party perspective so that they can just say like, that's what I believe. Like, oh, what do we believe about that? Oh, that's what we believe about it. Yeah, that's what I believe about it. And it's like, wait, but you didn't actually think through any of that for yourself. You didn't come to that belief or that conclusion because of like any research or any evidence. You only did it because that person said that that's the belief that you have because you're in that party.
Exactly.
That's way more wild than being somebody who's like, I'm a little bit liberal here, I'm a little bit conservative here, I tend to lean a little bit more left on these issues, I tend to lean a little bit more right on these issues. Like that's called nuance, and that's called being a fucking person.
Yeah. Or even the same issue where it's a great example is I'm a huge free speech absolutist. Huge, don't want the government involved at all in our speech. And that will mean one side or the other will really love me or really hate me depending on what the speech is.
And they'll switch it.
They switch
every like 8 years. It's like, well, Trump said this thing and that makes you, like you've been doing the same thing for 10 years and saying the same thing about a certain issue for 10 years. And then all of a sudden, Trump stops saying it and Kamala starts saying it. And then for some reason they're pointing the finger at you, and it's like, you guys are the ones switching.
Totally.
I was the same on this the whole time.
Yeah, conservatives were really good on free speech for a hot second, and then it's for just one example. Trump was saying that you should go to jail for a year if you burn a flag, which that's a very, very clearly constitutional. He said you're an idiot or you're stupid if you think it's constitutionally protected, but. Okay. It's very important to protect political speech like that, where you can protest your government. That's the whole point of the First Amendment.
Absolutely.
So then I say something like that, and then it's okay. Not just we have a different idea. It's like you hate this country.
Right.
It's like, oh my.
Right.
And it's easier, like you said, to be like, okay, you're a warrior for the country, and I'm a hater for. But again, and I don't also get points from the other side either. I mean, there's people, still, regardless of what I say on Fox News, the fact that I work there, it's enough for people to be like, not everybody, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
Not a lot of,
But some people will do it like secretly.
Yeah.
They'll be like your friend.
Yeah.
But then they won't tell anybody that you're their friend.
Yes. No, I read about that multiple times. That happened multiple times. And I was like, realized, we don't have any pictures together. Oh, that was by design. This person doesn't want any evidence of hanging out with me.
We don't have any pictures together. That's such a funny thing to like recognize after you've been hanging out with somebody for a long time. Yeah. It's like your friend and then they break up with them or whatever. You just don't see him around for a while.
Yeah. So that was my friend, one of my very good friends. This person's been my friend for 14 years now. Yeah. And she was in a relationship for 8 years with this person. And so this person is a director, actually, like a big director, and we'd all hang out all the time.
Hollywood, like
Hollywood guy. Yeah, we all hang out all the time, and like this dude loved me. He'd come see me do stand up. He'd be laughing the loudest. This was my homie. This guy.
Yeah.
My wedding only had 30 people. It was a COVID wedding. A lot of my close friends didn't come. Nobody had a +1, and I invited both of them, and they broke up not too long ago. And she told me, you know, he would not send pictures to her that he'd taken of the two of us because he was worried she would post them. And then he would maybe lose work because his girl was in a picture with me. And I'm like,
because the girl I'm dating and I have a friend who happens to work at Fox.
Correct.
In addition to the other things that she does. Like,
right.
It's not even like you are like Fox born and bred and made, and like you do so many other things.
I do so many other things.
Like
and also
so crazy.
Fox gives me a platform to say what I believe.
Sure.
And
in a helpful way, because like, actually, I think this is a point that you brought up in the book. Maybe it was on an interview that you did, but the question is like, why is this bad? Like, why would you rather it be like Gutfeld filled with 4 or 5 other completely hardcore conservative people?
Yeah.
Like I'm like,
I did bring that up
to somebody on the left. It's like, what, like if you're having that conversation with them, it's like, you want people like me on Fox,
right?
To offer a different perspective, because this person who only ever digests and watches Fox News because it's the conservative news network and they're conservative would never hear anything contradictory to anything that they believe if it weren't for like people like me getting on that network and them allowing me to speak my mind about it.
Yeah.
Like, would you rather that? Like,
and I bring that up. I'm like, then your
that?
grandparents leave it on all day would really never hear from, and it's Fox News is not an idea in itself. It's a platform on which to share ideas. And also the thing is, I am constantly calling out and saying how horrible it is. I also do have friends, obviously, I don't know if it's obvious, but working there, who are MAGA people, you know, and they're great people. And I love these people, and they love Trump. They just love the guy. And that is one aspect of these people.
Right.
And I am it's so out of control where, again, I said I watch reality TV, and also it's worse than that. I'm even somebody who like is on the subreddits for these reality TV. Like I'm in deep actually, but I will see this where they'll find someone who was a contestant on The Bachelor, liked a tweet from Ben Shapiro, just for example, like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then that person's done, and anybody who still associates with that person's done. And it's just like, I'm constantly standing up for people who are in that situation where it's like, this is one aspect of a person, but then they'll turn on me. Of course, I don't get that. I have no allies, basically, is what I'm saying. Right. But that's why people are attracted to this, because they do have allies.
But you know what's interesting is I've said that to a lot of people, is I feel like I don't belong to a group because I just have my own thoughts and opinions, which imagine that. And you said something in the book too that was like binary thinking is the enemy of critical thinking, which is exactly accurate, you know, because
pick a side, thinking's done.
Right. It's not actual thinking. It's not thinking. It's just accepting. You can't even really call it thinking. You're just accepting wholesale what people tell you to believe. That's not thinking for yourself. But so I tend to be in that same boat where it's like I piss a lot of people off on both sides, and then I also agree with people on both sides. But you said something in the book too that I'd never really thought about, which I appreciate you bringing up. You said something like it's worth, like, not feeling like I have people that are on my side is worth the it's worth giving that up so that I can have great relationships with people who are on both sides. Yeah. And I was like, that is exactly how I feel about it. I never really thought about it that way, but that's the truth. It's like some of my best friends are like people who I met who, if you would have told me that they would be friends of mine like a decade ago when I was like fundamentalist Baptist guy, you know, I'd be like, man, shit went sideways for me, except I wouldn't have said shit, you know?
Exactly.
So, but like, I would have been like disappointed in my future self for hanging out with that person. Yeah. Because when I met them, they were extremely liberal or whatever. But they're such good people, and they're like my people, and they're like friends who I love with all my heart, and they love me. You know what I mean? It's like, I would never have the opportunity to have those types of sharpening friendships and relationships, people who challenge me, people who make me better, if I didn't also open myself up to criticism from both sides. Yeah. Which I thought was a very, very good point. Yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up.
No, I can't imagine my life without some of these relationships. And I have friends, I have also friends who are to the left of AOC, right? Yeah. Also have friends who just don't care. Right. I have friends all over the spectrum, and I can't imagine my life without these people.
It's prioritizing people over party.
Exactly.
You know, and you might get some shit from both sides for it, but you also get to walk away with some really cool relationships with people that you never would have had relationships with.
Yeah, and you get to be wrong about things you might have thought before. And I love being wrong because it means you learned something.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy too, because it's crazy that you get it from both sides. And then you have like your conservative mom, but then you also tell a story in the book about how you were dating this girl.
Yes.
And her mom was like a professor.
A gender studies professor.
Gender studies professor.
Yeah, very
and was mad
left-wing.
at her for dating you because you worked at Fox.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
you're like, what?
Like this is a gay relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the relationship in and of itself should tell you.
Yeah,
enough.
I'm not homophobic or sexist.
What's happening? It's so confusing.
So I never talked about my sexuality before, except all the time to all my friends, my family, and people for 5 minutes. I mean, because it's true, I've dated girls, so it comes up, but I never spoke about it in a book or a pod because I just didn't want to be like people make a big deal about it.
Sure.
But I had to tell this story because it is such an illustrative story of what I'm talking about. Where this girl, I had a thing for her forever. We kind of like kissed a few times, whatever. I was hosting Fox News New Year's Eve that year, hosting like the pre-show. I got off work. I went over to my friend's party only because she would be there. She came home with me. She's still there the following night. We're like, it's going great. Her family came to collect her from my house. Like
physically.
Like physically. I'm sure there was more involved to it than just this, but I did find out from the mutual friend that the mom was horrified. It was Parsons Sprite. She was horrified that her daughter. I mean, I'm such a fucking bad boy, right? She was horrified by the fact that her daughter was holed up like that with a Fox News girl.
Like you're riding a motorcycle with a leather vest, like you were the bad boy.
Yeah, but again, I wasn't clearly being sexist or homophobic.
Right.
Being holed up with
literally,
and it was crazy
by definition.
And I did see her. I mean, we went on to have her like. I still talk to her from time to time, and we always say when people ask, "How did you define your guys' relationship?" I would just say like, "How much time do you have?" It was very complicated, but I had feelings for her and all that. But it's not like this mom was an idiot or that she's just she just wasn't thinking about it. In her head, it's okay. Fox News is bad, so I got to get my daughter out of there. This is my daughter should be spending time with this person,
right?
And that's how these things happen. That's why binary thinking is the enemy of critical thinking. And it's not like it's, this is how did I say it in the book? It's affected institutions far more influential than my old apartment in Bushwick. This is happening all the time. And the consequences are a lot more serious than just, a girl leaving my house earlier than I wanted her to.
Yes, exactly. And to your point too, it's like for somebody like you, not to like downplay any of your challenges, but because of the position that you're in, because you're a very successful person, you have a lot of things going on in your career, you have a lot of dating options.
Yeah.
But it's like some people might not have like a big dating pool, and they're getting this from either side. Yeah. Whether it's like they go to a liberal university and they're dating somebody whose parents are really conservative and they don't want them dating that person, or it's the situation you ran into. It's like sometimes, man, like people are literally like messing with people's lives.
Yeah.
And their like intimacy and their interpersonal relationships for the sake of what, like I guess not feeling weird at the party that you're going to with all your friends that believe the same exact thing that you believe. Like I just don't, it blows my mind, especially when you prioritize that over your relationship with the person that you declare that you care about.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And it makes everything worse because I think everybody has probably a friend, a family member who is, even the people who are the most extreme, who are outside of whatever team they've chosen. So, but people like to kind of hide that a little bit. People like to pretend like they're a bigger part of the problem than they really are. That's the people who are, not. I have people too who are fans of mine, who are famous people, who will DM me, but then they'll leave voice notes because they don't want like screenshot, but they won't follow me or they won't like my stuff. And it's like,
they're like, snap me and I'll tell you what I think about
anybody. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just great. And I had a friend actually who was at a party and he said people privately came up to him and was like, "Oh, I like love your friend Gab, but don't tell anybody else here." And that happened like 3 or 4 times.
That's
because people didn't want people to. And it's just, what if we all could just at least be open?
Yeah.
And focus on the human stuff in life?
Yeah.
Because like we're all dying. You know what I mean? It's people take themselves so seriously.
Exactly. Like we're all headed for the same destination.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
At some point.
Yeah. No matter what you do.
Yeah. Like we may as well try to get along a little bit. And just look for the commonalities.
And there are a lot.
On those. You know what I mean?
And this book is kind of a guide for that, I think. And I think part of the things, vulnerability is a huge part of it. I mean, I really expose the shit out of myself in this book. I talk about a lot of things that most people probably wouldn't share. And I share them and I get into details.
Yeah.
And I do that on purpose because I think that one of the main problems is we don't see the human being anymore. But if we want to see each other as human, we got to be willing to show that we are human.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder.
Including the bad stuff.
I call myself out and I talk about mistakes I made. And everybody has that ugly shit. Everybody has ugly shit. And you got to remember that when you're talking to people.
Right.
And if you can show that part of yourself, people are a little more likely to have some compassion or just remember, oh, this is a human being I'm talking to.
Yes, that we're all part of the human experience.
Exactly.
And have some empathy for that other person.
Yeah.
There's a couple of quotes that I wanted to get to because I just really like these. One of them was, believing that government power isn't the best way to solve a problem does not equal not caring about the problem.
Yeah.
Another one I get a lot because I tend to be, so I'm not in the political world a lot. I don't do a ton of political interviews. I don't read a ton of political stuff. I tend to stay out of it because my realm is mostly like business entrepreneurship and, self-help and development and that kind of stuff. And so this is one that I get a lot because I tend to, like, when people ask my opinion, I just tell them like, look, politics, like it has the ability to affect your life, but nobody in this world has more ability to affect your life positively than you do.
Yeah.
And it's your responsibility to look out for yourself and for your family first, because that's going to do way more than trying to like go to a local government meet up and get a law changed or something. It's like you have more ability to control the things going on in your life than the government's going to. So like, save yourself is kind of like the message that I tell people. And then I get the backlash of like, well, you have the luxury of not caring about these problems and you don't care about this person and you don't care about this thing or this policy or this law or whatever. And it's like, how are you saying this to me? Like, we don't know each other at all. You're asking my opinion on this thing. This is my opinion. And because I shared my opinion, you're now going to vilify me for like not caring about what, children dying or whatever. It's like, this is insanity.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes. I have a whole chapter called Think of the Children.
Yes.
But it happens to me a lot too, where it's like, okay, if you don't care, you don't think the government can solve this problem, means you don't care about it, which I think that you got to reframe it. You have to say, okay, because a lot of the time, what the issue is, a lot of people want the same things. The difference is how to get there. And having a different idea of what a solution is to a problem doesn't mean you don't care about the same problem.
Yeah.
And focusing around, okay, we have this problem that we both think is a problem in common, but it's also so effective for politicians to divide us.
Absolutely.
It's so effective
there's a direct correlation.
Of course. To say, okay, vote for me, because if the other person wins, we're all fucked, is a lot more motivating than, vote for me because of this policy and this is that
was literally the entire debate. It was just like, this country's going to be non-existent in 4 years.
It's the entire election.
It's like, wait, what? When has that ever happened?
Right.
Everybody always says it every time. And never has it happened. Not once. We're still around.
Around. Exactly.
This is going to be the one? I thought the last one was going to be the one.
And I thought the one before that was going to be the one, depending on who, yes.
It's like, if you take a second to step back, it's such an obvious fear tactic that's being deployed on a mass level, but we still give into it. Like the majority of people still give into that just gross fear mongering that, tells them that if this person gets elected, I mean, it's literally going to be the apocalypse.
Yeah. And it's
freedom as we know it will die.
Yeah, exactly. But really, ironically, you can lose a lot of your freedom by letting fear make you support maybe a law that you haven't really looked into.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Which I talk about more in the book too.
Okay, this one also was one that I really liked. I have a set of core principles, and my view of any situation depends on those principles instead of a predetermined allegiance.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important for people to adopt?
I think it's important because then you're talking about the issues, and that you're talking about policy. You're not just, when you have this lens that you're viewing things through, you're really limiting yourself. And you get so passionate, but really you're not getting passionate about something, principles. I think I have friends, a good example is I have friends that are really, really left wing. And sometimes it can be easier to talk to those friends about stuff than it can be the party line Democrat friends, because at least they're able to kind of question the system itself and say, oh, this Democratic politician made a mistake. Whereas sometimes people, and it goes for Republicans too,
sure.
right? Sometimes people, if they're, okay, this candidate, they'll explain away everything that this candidate does or explain away everything this politician does.
They're like cult leaders.
They're like, yes. And I say this over and over again. Politics makes us fight with people who we know in our real lives on behalf of people who don't even know we exist. And it's pathetic when you break it down like that, but it is kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
And principles can be worth fighting for, but a lot of times it's not even what we're doing.
Right.
We may think that's what we're doing, but I mean, the way the sides have flipped on so many issues, I brought up First Amendment stuff, but also foreign policy. I mean, it just flips, and it's like I hear having the same views that I've always had, but it just depends who's saying it. Someone's gonna be mad at me, but it's not always the same side who's mad at me, even though I haven't changed.
Yeah. Well, their only principle is that they are Republican,
right?
or
Which
a Democrat,
is in principles.
Like, that's not how a principle works.
No, exactly, because you're just tied yourself to people who are just trying to get elected, and that's their only principle. And a lot of times, so it's like, dude, stand for something.
Yeah, right. Something that you actually believe in.
Yes.
Like something that you have real reason to believe in, and not just like even the this is going to piss people off too, but the some of the religious side that just writes off all of the like immorality that Trump has done in his life. Like that's one of the most wild ones to me because those exact people I know are vilifying people that they actually know for doing a third or a half or 1/10 of what Donald Trump has done in his life. And then they're like calling those people bad people and immoral and that they need to come to Jesus or whatever. And then it's like all of a sudden we have the most liberal conservative president ever, who's Donald Trump. But all of a sudden, like that slate's just wiped clean. Like he doesn't have to abide by the same set of moral principles that you have for other people. And by the way, I don't care what Donald Trump's done. Like he's a billionaire. I don't care. He can do whatever he wants. I'm not even judging any of that stuff. I'm just saying like it doesn't line up to me when you're going to like authority that I grew up with. You're gonna get mad at me for like not shaving or like not doing this dumb rule that existed inside of our rule book. But then he's gonna go have this blow up with Stormy Daniels. And then you're just going to preach how he's like the second coming of Jesus. And
yeah. I was talking about this truly last night because I just like you, I don't care at all what those arguments are not convincing to me ever. Like this politician did this sex thing. I'm like, okay, I don't care.
Yeah.
And we talk about something else. Does not affect me. It does not bother me.
But as long as it's not hurting other people.
Right. Exactly. But some of these same people will then literally say, like, send me essays about how my skirts are too short, call me disgusting, say I'm nasty. Yeah. I had someone say I'm a nasty, disgusting person. I'm like, also like, I'm a married woman expecting a child. Like, that's pretty like, okay.
Also, it's like, it's not even like you're an OnlyFans creator or something like that.
And also, like, that's the other thing.
Which I also don't have a
problem with. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like, how can you be, ultimately, it's okay when he does it, but like if I'm not doing any of that.
Yeah. It's
my
not
skirt's
only
just above the knee.
He does it. He's
untouchable.
Jesus.
Untouchable.
He's the reincarnation. He's the second coming of Christ. He's like your savior. But like, if I do 1/10 of that, it's like, you're not allowed to come here.
Yeah. And of course it's not everyone, right? No, it's not, there's a lot of people who love Trump. I know they also are they've become more socially libertarian too, which I think is a great thing.
Sure.
But yeah, there are a cohort of people who I get very angry emails from.
Yeah.
It's about, like, again, my skirt length.
Yeah.
Or the fact that I said fuck.
Right.
It's like, really?
Well, that's what I'm talking about when the political leaders become cult leaders, where like people stop engaging in anything that's bad about that person. It's like you go through that BITE model from Hassan, the behavior control, information control, thought control, emotion control. It's like, this is exactly what this person has become to you. They're an untouchable deity, which, like, one of my core values now coming out of the world that I grew up in is like, do not treat men like gods. Yeah. And that's what's happening in politics is like you deify this person who's a person who makes mistakes,
or even just
try to overlook
a brand of a person. Like I think we saw with Kamala after she replaced Joe, where it was like, she didn't even talk to anybody. Yeah. And she became the most famous, revered woman.
And she didn't get a single vote.
And she didn't get a single vote.
honestly blows my mind. Like you're running for president and you never got anybody to vote for you.
Never.
And then like you were hidden for 3.5 years and all of a sudden we're just being like gaslit into believing that you have been amazing this whole time.
Yeah. And she's
like,
also a great example of, I mean, and this is most politicians. I mean, she's been on every side of so many issues. Like she was a cop. I mean, prosecutor, and then she was the bail fund lady. And now it's like, and now she's like, he's a felon and I'm a cop. So like now you're a law and order again. It's just like, and I can't take it seriously, so I don't.
Exactly. You lose all credibility.
Yeah, I just don't.
Right. It's more like watching the debate the other night was like watching a Logan Paul fight to me. Yeah. It was just like, this isn't real.
But what's crazy and what this book is about is if anybody took a clip of us talking about Trump just now, they'd be like, oh, they are, the communists. They love Kamala.
Right.
Liberal idiots. But then if anybody just heard us talking about Kamala, they're like, oh, so they're MAGA and they love Trump. Yeah. And it's like, not only are people not able to independently think, people aren't able to even perceive it when it's happening. Right. It's not just, oh, like I said before, it's just like, oh, they have this opinion about this thing. Mm-hmm. It means they also have this whole other list of opinions.
Mm-hmm. And that makes you bad.
Right? And irredeemable. And you can't come over. And if anybody's ever seen in a photo with you, they can't come over. I mean, that's truly where we are. Truly where we are.
Oh man, it's ridiculous. All that to say, I used to like you until go pick up a copy of Kat's book. Kat, I wish we had more time.
I
we
do
can do a part 2 some other time, but I
you.
genuinely appreciate you taking the time because I know you're insanely swamped right now. Congrats on the pregnancy.
Thank you.
I genuinely wish you guys the best for that. It's going to be a wild ride. And,
that's what I hear.
Yeah. So, but also super happy times and genuinely appreciate you coming on. So thank you for doing that. For those listening, go buy a copy of Kat's book wherever it is that you like to buy books from. And as always, leave every relationship better than you found it. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.